please rise and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, let's begin by approving the agenda. May I have a motion to approve the agenda? All right, hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Okay, agenda is approved. May I have a motion for approval of the open session minutes of October 6, 2014?
Make a motion to approve the open session minutes of October 6, 2014.
Is there any discussion, any amendments or corrections? Minutes? All right, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Community comments come next. Anyone from the public wish to be recognized? Hearing none, we will move on. Good evening, Chris. You're a part of the agenda. No rush. Waiting for me to start. Okay.
Come on. I've done that before too.
Well, you know, really too early to the party.
You were just in time, actually. You would have said here perfect time.
Perfect. All right. So we're ready to hear?
Awesome. Well, here's Nipmuc news. Nipmuc enjoyed a successful homecoming weekend on October 17th and 18th. Our teams won their games, and we had good crowds of the weekend events. We won, and it was the best feeling. I can't even tell you, the football game was insane. 140 students attended the bonfire, and 380 students attended the dance on Saturday night. Student council did a great job putting the events together. So homecoming court included Elizabeth Hilton, Tim Bryan, Maddie David Chauffeur. That was hysterical. PSATs were given at Nipmuc last week. 109 students took the test on Wednesday. On Saturday, all will be attending the Massachusetts Insight Education AP Saturday session, giving them extra teaching and learning time as they prepare for the end of course AP exam in literature and composition. There are a number of opportunities for Nipmuc students and parents to connect with colleges in the upcoming weeks. On Thursday, there will be a mini college fair at Nipmuc, welcoming about 70 colleges and universities. Senior Lauren Gerton is promoting Boston College Splash as a way for students to connect with the undergraduates at BC. On Thursday, October 23rd, from 7 to 9 p.m., a program called College Readiness. What every parent needs to know, this program is intended for parents of middle schoolers through early high school students, providing them with insight about getting ready for college. Additionally, the Nipmuc STEM Career and College Fair will take place on November 7th, welcoming a variety of STEM colleges and professionals to the school to meet with students. All students 9th to 12th grade, as well as 8th graders, will have the chance to attend. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right, so next we have superintendent's comments.
Okay, good evening. The first thing I'd like to cover is you have in your packet our official October 1st. We covered some of our initial statistics. I drilled down into more detail, specifically talking about class sizes and so on at each of our 4 schools. There really isn't a dramatic change since that report of September 8th. As I note in the background notes, there's 4 more students. So our official October 1st enrollment for the district is 2,395 students, which is just obviously 5 less than 2,400. That includes a grand total of 2,218 from our 2 communities and 140 students choicing in. Rather significantly, as I know that we use the official October 1st enrollment numbers for accounts. And probably of most significant, it also is what determines our local appropriations for the two communities. So as I know, 992 of those 2,218 are from Mendon, and 1,226 are from Upton rather. So that breaks down to 44.72% from Mendon and 55.28% from Upton. So as I know, that's a shift of approximately 1% between the two communities. 1% more for Mendon and 1% less for Upton. Any questions on those statistics? All right, the second piece is the turf field feasibility project. In the last 2 weeks, I've had the opportunity to present to basically anybody who would listen to me. I had the opportunity to present to the Upton Community Preservation Commission, and was very enthusiastically received about the project. There was a great deal of energy and enthusiasm. And at the end of my presentation, the Upton CPC voted unanimously to contribute $1,000 towards the feasibility study. I had the opportunity last week to present to the Upton Board of Selectmen just about the concept, and I would characterize the response. I would characterize the attitude as supportive of the concept and recognizing that there was a need for the regional school district, but also a need for our two communities as well. So I'm also slated to present to the Mendon CPC. I've been corresponding with Ann Mazar, who's the chair, and she's shooting for the week of the 28th. So with that in mind, the expectation of the Upton CPC was some type of matching contribution from the Mendon side. So anticipating a positive request to kind of to get the ball rolling and to push this process forward, the authorization from this committee of the expenditure of approximately $8,000, we could frame it as no more than $8,000 to fund the feasibility study. If you recall, the feasibility study had a threshold of $10,000, and assuming 1,000 and 1,000 from each of the community CPCs, the district expense would be $8,000. I say that being no more than $8,000 because I also plan on giving the same presentation to the various youth leagues in town as well, and asking for their support as well. If you recall, it's a 60-day feasibility/master plan study. It would be great if we could get the ball rolling in the ballpark of November 1st, bringing us to right around January 1st, where before the weather gets really cold and icy and cloudy. So that's where we are. Like I say, half facetiously and half seriously, I will present the concept and the ideas to anybody that'll listen to me. I had the opportunity, I believe it was last Wednesday night, to present to the Upton's Men's Club. Very supportive. They understand the need, again, not only for the district, but also for the community. Any questions or thoughts?
I have heard nothing negative about it, everything's positive. My one concern is not necessarily a feasibility study of, yes, we can put it over here, or these are the approximate costs. I think you may want to explore a feasibility study to make sure this is going to pass. That there's enough will in the two towns that they'll vote yes on this. before you go too far down the road. And I've been on a couple capital campaigns, both at the YMCA in Franklin. That's the first thing we did, was to go to make sure there was a need that the community was going to support it before we moved forward. So I don't know whether we do it now or
I think that-
discuss it or whatever, but I think most of my friends are only one vote.
They're a segment of the
They're a
population.
segment, so the segment that I'm used to is, yes, I'm all for it. I have 3 kids, and I'm definitely. But, we need to make sure that this is going to pass it.
And keep in mind, what this feasibility / master plan would do, Chris, is it drills down on some of the more specifics. That right now, we have an idea, we have a concept, but we don't know what our various options are here on the high school footprint. What the feasibility study will do is, it'll give us more of those specifics. Okay, where's the field exactly going to be? What is involved as far as clearing the land, preparing the land? Do we have any abatement issues of wetlands? Will feasibility study and master plan maps that out very clearly. It gives us a clear blueprint. It gives us a timeline. Okay. So I think before people can make an informed decision on whether they support this, they need to know exactly, hey, what's the school district's plan with regard to
Well,
this?
I 100% agree, that was not my point. My point was that, after this is done,
Okay.
there's another feasibility study saying, if we go
Sure.
forward, is it going to pass?
Sure.
And then the other part is, at least all the other projects that I've worked on, where you go to the larger donors, you go to the corporations and say, look, this is what we're not doing, can we get some money? So you kind of do it with water. So that's just my point, is that I'd like to see you come back and say,
Any questions?
No, just going to figure out how much it's really going to cost.
Sure.
And then you'll be able to have a feasibility study to figure out how to fund it.
It's our
And then
first
you'll be
step.
able to take that and be able to go back to the people and say, do you support if we do this? All that stuff, so I'm all for it. Plus you've got the price tag from 10,000 to 8,000, so it's 20% savings. Right, Jay?
Savings is savings. Every penny counts. That's good. Can we get it down more?
Further discussion or questions?
Just a question. Do we have even got it now, like an argument assumption of like what the need or how much you expect it to come out as?
Well, we could use, one of our 2 case study communities was the Shepherd Hill Regional High School, which is in Dudley Charles. And for a conversion of an existing field with athletic turf, track, and lights was $2.2 million.
Any further questions or discussion? Okay, hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the expenditure of no more than $8,000 for the feasibility study related to the...
As the expenditure of no more than $8,000 for the feasibility study for the term years.
For a second. Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Thank you. Okay, my third piece, as I do on a monthly basis, you have before you the year-to-date report for FY15. Jay, is there anything that you'd like to highlight as far as expenditures or anything that's looming?
There's nothing really that's going to show up on this report. We do have the potential, we've just learned in the last week or so, of a new out-of-district placement tuition cost that will not be covered by the move-in law in the common, but I'm concerned about that.
We also have had a couple of maintenance issues that pop up, and usually when we start spending money on maintenance or this early in the year, it always brings up concerns just because it's still early, in my opinion. When it's May, it's okay, because then I know what we actually are going to have left, or a better idea of it. So there are a couple of things that I don't think are alarming, but things that we just need to pay attention to.
Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Next, moving on to administrator comments. Recognize Principal Clements from the high school to give us a report on the Mendon-Upton Regional High School 2014 SAT results.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. As you know, I was here about a month ago talking about SAT scores as well. Unfortunately, SAT scores were still embargoed at that point. So on October 8th, those results were released. Joe was good enough to have me back to continue to share some information about kids' achievement. We wanted to put it in initially with the AP presentation because the numbers speak to the trend of kids doing well. I'm really pleased with the results and happy to share them with you tonight. Thank you. So as you can see, you have three main portions to the SAT. You see the main results up there, with Mendon-Upton coming in healthily above the Massachusetts and the national averages, and with our students coming in with a 1589 overall aggregate for the three test areas. I'm proud of these numbers for the achievement alone, but I'm going to talk in a few minutes about the context of these numbers, and I think that makes it even a little bit more important. And I think that speaks to the rigor that I was talking about in the AP presentation a few weeks ago, and that the kids are focused on college, they're focused on taking these tests and really showing what they can do, and that's a high number for us, so above the mass average and above where we've been. So that was the mean of all the students' tests put together. What you have here is their best score. So the SAT is a test that kids take several times, and they report only their best scores to colleges and universities. So again, really thrilled to see out of the 223 exams administered, when you take the best score, that aggregate goes way up for all three test areas. And I think it speaks to the fact that we're sending 90% of our kids essentially off to 2- and 4-year colleges. We see that they are competitive. A little bit about putting the results in a context. And so we'll start by looking at the national results from 13 and 14. We see that the 13 results and the 14 results for each test area are within a point of each other. So fairly flat. We look more at Massachusetts when we're making a comparison. Massachusetts obviously is higher achieving. And again, pretty flat within a point or two, with the writing going down by 2 points for 14 compared to 13. And then you look at Nipmuc's results, and you can see that from 13 to 14 we've had really nice jumps in each of the testing areas. So significant improvements. Really pleased with that. Again, it's the trend of what we're seeing. Kids taking more tests, harder courses, working harder. I think it's difficult to find just one or two factors that speak to that jump. And it's always dangerous when you're looking at a small sample size to try and explain too much of the reason for the change. I would point out a few things. One, the AP culture. Kids are working harder, taking more rigorous courses, and now they have a 7th class that they can take as a result of the schedule change. So you'll see kids doubling up in some areas. And if they're doubling up in math, it speaks to the fact that they're going to do better on the math test when SAT comes around. The other point about the schedule change that's important is now all of our freshmen and sophomores take an extra half credit in core area. So they're taking an extra half credit of math as sophomores, and they're taking an extra half credit of English during their high school career. So when you put in that extra half credit in the underclassmen years, you begin to see, to reap the benefits for the upperclassmen as well. So that's great. The work the teachers have done can't be overlooked. So much focus on curriculum over the course of the past few years. So making sure that the level of rigor is appropriate and that the assessments are challenging. So as we enter that into Rubicon Atlas, and we're spending a lot of time together in departments looking at how to improve teaching and learning, teachers are doing a great job. So kids stepped up to the challenge. They've got more courses to support it, and we see teachers really working hard to get their curriculum ready together. So again, nice numbers. Pleased to see the trend moving as well. That's 2 meetings in a row of me being concise.
You can't 30 minutes, 36 seconds.
Any questions?
Does anyone have questions?
Yeah, it's great.
Thank you very much. So next on the agenda, we have the subcommittee updates. From the policy subcommittee, we have 2 policies, ADF, which is a new policy that covers the district wellness policy. So, there's no reason.
Maureen, can you just give a brief overview of the wellness policy and the work that you've done with the district wellness committee and so on?
Sure, I'd be happy to. And I definitely was just paying attention just now. I said, what? So we met last year and had about 4 meetings over the course of the year, and we had representation across all the schools. We had nurses, we had counselors. It was really parents. It was a great, I guess, participation from all different people. And last year with a sample of a policy draft, and so that's predominantly what we worked on last year. So we refined it and brought it forward and felt that it represented all of the schools and all of the elements of what people are recommending in a wellness policy. And so we felt like the language kind of hit the mark right in the middle for all the different schools and philosophies. And we also looked closely at wellness policies that were out there and what state regulations recommend, and I feel like we're closely aligned to that as well.
Does anyone have questions about policy ADF? NDD, policy on social media and networking websites has been updated to reflect some changes as the one-to-one initiative has expanded in the school district. We've seen a need for a revision of this policy to clarify some of the issues regarding appropriate use of social networking in a professional sense by the employees of the district. So you've probably seen the red line changes to the policy that indicates that social media may be used for professional use as long as there is not personal contact and other stipulations of that policy. Did anyone have questions about that policy? All right, so we can anticipate having the second reading vote on this at our November 3rd meeting. And we next will hear from Diane with an update from the superintendent evaluation subcommittee.
Well, we just had the opportunity to meet right before this meeting, and we begin a new cycle with Joe's superintendent evaluation. It always starts with a self-assessment, which it's very in-depth and comprehensive. It takes into consideration 4 standards and 33 elements. And then from that, Joe does his own self-assessment to try to set his goal. So he'll have 3 overreaching goals, 1 student learning goal, 1 professional practice goal, and 3 district improvement goals. So we sat and met tonight and discussed all of those and approved them. And like I said, it begins at the beginning of his cycle, which is a year-long cycle. This goes through June. We'll meet that. And then it comes to fruition at the end of the year, and then we'll report back to everybody probably the beginning of September. And that's about it.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, is there any old business before the committee needs to be discussed? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to new business. The first issue at hand is the resignation of school committee member Grace Manieri. We've all received notification that Grace Manieri is resigned from the school committee due to personal reasons. And I'm sure we can all agree that Grace was an important member of our team. She was the head of the policy subcommittee and made many contributions to our collective efforts here, and we will miss her talents. So we need a formal motion to accept. Let's make that motion.
make a motion to accept Grace's resignation from personal reasons.
Is there a second? Okay, all those in favor? Okay, and next we move on to the district 2014 MCAS results and accountability results.
Okay. As we do every year, we'd like to share with the committee and share with the public how the district did on the most recent spring MCAS testing, and also what the district and our individual schools' accountability ratings are state. Okay, we've streamlined the presentation for people nodding off, so we'll try to go through this in a relatively quick pace, and myself and Maureen will point out the data, point out some learning, and then also some questions that we may have moving forward. Okay. So, as always, tonight is kind of to look at a broad overview. The way I choose to present the data is looking at trends over time, and I think this year you'll see 6 years worth of data, 09 to 14. Looking at how do we also compare to our neighboring districts, and how do we compare to what is known as dark districts, that would be districts in the state that size and so on. We'll talk a little bit about our district ratings, and then also what do we feel like we're doing well, what are some of our challenges, and what are we going to do to address those challenges. Okay? So let's start. The way we'll do this is we'll look at the ELA test data, then we'll look at the math data, and then we will look at the science data. So I think, Maureen, you're going to cover the ELA data.
So as we start off, this is actually all grades ELA, and all of the slides you'll see, we have the comparison with Mendon-Upton and comparison with the state. And so in the green, we'll see on all the charts, we'll see Mendon-Upton. Something else you'll know in the bottom right-hand corner of many of the slides, we have our what's called the median student growth percentile.
Yeah, SGP is a metric that basically compares every single kid to their peers statewide of how they did this year versus last year. Okay? So basically, it's a real simple metric in that you're ranked from 1 to 100 of how you did versus your peers this year versus last year. Okay? So typical, what's in the middle of 1 to 100 is 50. Okay, so if your growth is typical, it would generally be in that 40 to 60 range. So right around the midpoint. Anything above 60 is considered to be high growth. Okay? So that'll come back in a couple of these slides. So, not to steal your thunder, if you were to take all of our kids, 3 through 8 and 10 that were tested in ELA, we're at 80% proficient or higher for this year, and our growth of all of our kids is right in the middle. It's at 50.
So a couple of things we'll want to look at on some of the slides. We want to look obviously at our own growth and our own trajectory, but something else we want to compare ourselves to is the state. And so here you can see a close alignment with the scores in the state and the scores in the district. We're clearly above the state, which is great and where we want to be. So those are different things we're going to want to look at as we approximately about 80% for ELA for all of our grades. We go to the next one. Okay, third grade. One thing you're going to know with third grade, we're seeing it kind of go up and down, but if you look in the last 2 years, you can note that it's been very stable the last 2 years at 74%, which is something good, but we want to keep moving up as we go forward as well. But it's nice to see us at a stable rate there. For fourth grade, overall, if you were to look from the beginning in 2009 and look to 2014, you could see the trend. When we talk about some of the trends, we see a growth over time has been positive. It's gone up about 6% over. It's still kind of stable in the last couple of years for us. For fifth grade, with us starting in 2009 with 72% and then going up to the high of 85%, it's been kind of an uneven performance over the course of the years, with a slight decline in the last year from 79% to 74%. Our median student growth percentile is still in the average range of 42, a little bit on the lower end, but still in the average range, so we want to make sure that we're following for ELA. For sixth grade, we note that we have a higher performance level for the numbers on the top there for Mendon-Upton, and it's been kind of stable, and again, our median growth is about 43, so it's similar to the fifth grade results. For seventh grade, when we move to that, we see stronger performance, so we have a really strong trend of 87% to 88, and then stable to 88 for the last 2 years, and a stronger median student growth percentile of 54%. And at eighth grade, you know, it's even higher percentages that our students are achieving at, with 93% last year, 91% this past year, and the median student growth is 44, so still in the average range. In very close to 100%. It's hard to get to that 100%, but you know, we're getting close. We're there. You know, we have the 95 last year, and then up to 97% again, and we still have a small gap with the state. But if what you really want to know is in the bottom right-hand corner. So this is one of the highest student growth percentiles that we have in any of our grades. At 67.5, so that falls in the high growth rate, and that's something that we definitely want to celebrate and love to see. So that even though we have students who are performing at a high level, they're still growing. That percentage is growing, which is what we want to see.
So looking at our math results now, Mendon-Upton versus Blue, you see the trajectory, and overall very much aligns with the state as far as the proficiency rates, okay? Both tests, both Mendon-Upton and the state, if you look at that 6-year trend, you're talking about a trend of 6% difference in proficiency, where this year we're at 70% of our kids are proficient in advanced overall in math. So when we break it down to by grade, similar to ELA, again, stable at third grade at 81% proficient or higher. Then fourth grade, where we had some of our largest growth and percent. I'm very, very proud of this grade and the efforts, and I know firsthand the work that was done both in grade 3 and grade 4 at Clef Memorial. A lot of work around data, a lot of work around improving the curriculum. One thing that I find very interesting, and I think it's important to look at this data, but you also have to have perspective on standardized tests like the MCAS. You notice that we're all at different percentages as we go through here, both our own. I do want to make the note that the fourth grade and the eighth grade have amongst the highest cut scores, okay? So it's not like our third graders are really, really smart, and then they hit the fourth grade, and, you know, they lose some of that knowledge. it's different cut scores that they use from year to year. That's one thing. But the fourth grade has always typically been a very, very tough grade, and it's always hovered around 50%. So I think the growth that we've seen going from 55 to 72% is very, very significant, and I think our teachers deserve a world of credit for the hard work that they're doing. Grade 5 is a source of concern for two reasons. Okay, as you can see, a downward trend, and we're basically right now at the state average. And I have a concern about the student growth. Okay, so I think this is an area where we need to do some work. We need to dig a little deeper with the data. We need to see what's happening here. Grade 6, also pretty stable as far as where it is, but looking at a shorter 2-year trend, you're talking about a slight decline in performance. Grade 7, also still demonstrably higher than the state. However, within the last 2 years, a slight decline in performance. But I do think it's interesting that you've got a mixed data set here where your student growth percentile, it shows significant growth in 67. And then grade 8 also, overall, a decline from 13, however, in the larger trend, an increase of 10% proficiency in that same time span, an increase of only 4%. And then our grade 10 results, 90% proficiency or higher, but significantly, just like the ELA data, very, very high student growth percentile. The median of our kids was 71, which means a lot of our kids, this year's juniors, had SGPs of 80s and 90s. So very, very strong performance at grade 10. So now for science, technology, and engineering.
So if we start off with the 5th grade exam, we can see we have that trend of it being stable for the last couple of years. And then when we go to the 8th grade scores, we can see that we're trending up, which is something that we definitely love to see, and kind of hovering at that 63%. 63 went down to 59, up to 63, but we're heading in a good direction. And then when we look at the biology, if you look kind of across the trend from 2009 to 2014, you can see it's pretty stable along, a little bit down at each end. Last year, 91% to 86%, and we've had, some slight changes in our curriculum and different students taking the test.
But yeah, the significant piece is last year, the high school deliberately has made the decision to move the science testing out of the 10th grade into the 9th grade. So one less test that the kids get as sophomores. So realize this year, last year being a transition year, we had both 9th and 10th grade students taking the bio test. So we kind of went really, really heavy. So realize this year we're transitioning correct to all 9th grade,
And
right?
keeping that, we still have a little bit of a mix. So last year included in these results are about 40 freshmen who took the
So still a little bit of a dip, but still 86% proficient advance is still a very strong performance. So just as a background, that's the whole set of data. This is where I pare it down, but it's a very, very complex metric that the DESE uses to classify schools. Really, their emphasis is looking at how are all of your kids doing, but how are your subgroups doing? Subgroups are defined as Any group that is 30 students or larger, it could be by race, it could be by students with disability, it could be a metric called CPI, or Composite Performance Index. It's basically taking everybody's MCAS score and ascribing a number to it. So if a student is proficient or advanced, they're 100. If there needs improvement, they're 75. If they are warning or failing, it's 50 or 0, depending on how high or low their score is. At the high school level, they also look at dropout rates, graduation rates, and so on. Okay? So basically, taking all of that stuff and applying it to a fairly complex formula, they classify schools level 1 to level 5. Okay? So level 1 being the highest achieving, level 5 means, oh my God, the state is taking you over. Okay? The schools are classified, and then they classify the district, and they classify the district based upon what your lowest classified school is. Okay, so say you're a district and you have a level 1, a level 2, and a level 3, then your district would be considered to be a level 3 district. Okay? So this is where I think I lost a lot of you on these slides last year, so thankfully I pared them down dramatically. But in 2012, the state actually dictated, or dictated is probably a strong word, has determined targets for all of your kids and all of your subgroups. And in Mendon-Upton, we don't have a lot of subgroups, both special education students and our ELL students, and they were referred to as high-need students, okay? So for example, these are the targets using CPI, or that Composite Performance Index, that they've established for Clough Elementary School. So for ELA testing, you see what the values are. This is how Clough has actually done. Okay, so if you look at the nice, neat blue and red lines, those are the targets. And the ones that are more jagged, that represents the actual performance, the CPI of all the kids. So as you can see, for all students, our actual performance is right on the target, 90.3. They give you a leeway of 5%. And then our high needs, so mostly students with disabilities, actually is above the target. So I think that really speaks to the work that was done at Clough last year, work that was done by the classroom teachers, and then kind of moving also to an inclusion model. So they do that for ELA, and they also do that for math. There's the targets, and as you can see, both the aggregate and the high needs groups are above the targets for 2014. They actually made a significant jump in 1 year. So if you recall, Clough was a level 3 school, and now, based upon this data, they are now a level 1. So I'm going to spare you the slides and showing the targets for all 4 schools, but I wanted you to get a sense of where that comes from. So our classifications this year are our 2 elementary schools are level 1, Misco Hill is a level 2, and Nipmuc is a level 1. Again, the district is classified based upon the lowest classification, which is level 2. Keep in mind, 80% of districts, or actually it's like in the high 70s, are level 2 districts within the Commonwealth, because the majority of middle schools in the Commonwealth are also level 2. So what this essentially means, level 1 means you're meeting all groups. Level 2 means you're meeting your overall targets. However, you might have an issue or two with your subgroup targets. Okay? So it really kind of speaks to kind of work are you doing with your subgroups? I think also, to be fair, too, looking at middle schools, why are so many middle schools level 2? Well, most of your middle schools, every single grade is being tested. Okay, the difference, okay, my elementary schools, 2 out of the 5 grades are being tested. My high school, 1 out of the 4 grades. The middle school, 4 out of the 4 grades. Okay, so therefore you're what is invariably done, and the Department of Ed does this for you very easily, we take a look at our comparisons to neighboring districts. So we basically take the districts in the Blackstone Valley, and then we also throw in Hopkinton because it's a neighboring district. And we say, how is our comparison relative to them? And as you can see, it fares very, very well. Again, this is using all of the data, all of the kids tested 3 through 8 and 10, as far as our proficiency levels in ELA, math, and science. And then our DESE compares us to what is similar numbers as far as the number of students, but they also have similar demographics, and specifically they look at percentage of your student body receiving free and reduced lunch, percentage of your student body that receives special education services, and percentage of your student body that are English language learners. I find it interesting that for some reason this year they changed some of the dark districts that we're compared against, maybe because of changing demographics. Some are the same, but there's some new ones in there, like Sandwich, and Natick, and Wilmington are also new, so is Wakefield. But as you can see, if you were to look at where we fare, we're pretty much in the middle of the pack. So if we had to take these 32 slides and summarize them, I think there's areas that we can definitely celebrate, where there's definitely growth. I think our proficiency rates are still, when you compare them to the state, are relatively high. And if you look at the trend lines, the trends pretty much align with the state averages, and that kind of really speaks to the construction of the test. I think at the elementary level particularly, we've made some significant progress in the high needs subgroup. As I showed you on that graph, looking at some of the CLUF data, I think we're a world of credit from bringing the school's accountability rating from a level 3 to a level 1. Again, I think you have to be balanced. You can't hit the panic button. I don't think MCAS data is the end-all, be-all. However, it is a snapshot. It's a piece of the data puzzle that kind of speaks to how are we doing as a district. I think overall, our SGP, or our student growth percentile, is typical. However, we continue to see some real significant good growth at grade 10 here at Nipmuc. As I said to you, I think we need to do a little bit more data analysis and drill down, particularly as far as looking at our proficiency rates, and are there any issues with regard to content strands where we need to address from a curriculum standpoint. And kind of interesting, I spared you the data, but if you were to break down how we did with the high needs group in all 4 schools, there was actually significant gains in high needs for all 4 schools. Okay, in some cases, like at MISCO, the high needs didn't meet the 2014 target, but still there was significant growth from 2013 to 2014. So again, it's an area that we need to explore and we need to.
I like some of the work that's being done this year, and this is not a summary, there's a lot more being done, but we are still continuing to align our curriculum and our materials to the Common Core state standards, and with the Wonders Reading Program, just going in and observing the impact, the positive impact at the elementary level. It's phenomenal what I'm seeing happening and how all the teachers are diving in and really leading the charge with that. So I think we're going to see some great results once we get used to that. So that's just one example, but at the middle school, we have a lot of new resources as well, with some of the textbooks and Common Core One, and really some great resources, so that's going to help us. Our professional development focus this year, one of the areas has been at the October day, we had the kickoff with a performance assessment training, and it was about task design and rubric development and kind of analyzing our own assessments, and then that's going to make us stronger in aligning our curriculum to our assessment pieces. At the middle school, they're looking at teaching vocabulary and taking a new approach to teaching vocabulary, so that's something some of the grade levels are working on and targeting. At the high school, last year we had the first time we used the academic support grant, and we just got approved for that this coming, just this past week for this coming year, and that helps target students who are in the needs improvement and learning categories to help them with passing the MCAS. And teaching beyond the elementary level is going to have a great impact on our students. We can improve the more successful that those high needs or subgroups will be. So there's a lot more going on, but those are two areas that we wanted to highlight.
So I know that's a lot in a relatively short period of time. Does anybody have any questions about anything specific to the data or interpretations or so?
So a key area when you look at the data is clearly what you aligned to in supplementing your summary points, 5th and 6th grade math. I guess my question is, what's being done in those areas to strengthen that program and the development of our students?
I think it has to be around the performance of the students receiving special education services, as far as how are they accessing the curriculum and are they getting the content that they absolutely need? Okay, is it being done within the context of the classroom, or is it being done by a pull-out model? And if it's being done by pull-out model, are they getting the grade level content that they need? So I think that's what really we have to address. I don't know if you want to.
That, and we also, we jumped into Common Core, so we were completely teaching Common Core and follow Common Core, and there were quite a few questions in the math that were not taught at that grade level. It wasn't a smooth transition. A clear example is circles in 6th grade. There was a question on that, and it's not covered in the Common Core. It was covered, but I chose to direct my teachers to go fully into the Common Core because we were going over with the new Prentice Fulton textbooks, and I wanted it to be a smooth transition. So there's a whole bunch of different areas. We take MCAS very seriously at NISCO. We do, I disseminated all this information to every single teacher. We've done data digs. We know there's a problem. We take it seriously. We know we're a level 2 district because of NISCO. I'm surprised, especially at the student growth performance percentage in 5th grade, especially that is bothersome. I could care less if we had an 86 student growth, I'd be fine if we were all in needs improvement. I think in middle school we really need to grow, and it's not the score, it's the growth that we need. So So we're doing a lot of work. Just know we take this very seriously. We don't look at the scores, and we're working on it all year long. This is disturbing. I've been kind of preaching to Maureen and Joe that I'm surprised we're not a level 3 district school this year. I was surprised. I thought we were going to be until the ratings came out. So doing a lot of work. Anthony's with the teachers, and spread myself a little bit across the board a little bit more. So hopefully we can fix this, and we can make as much growth as Clough did last year.
That'd be great.
One thing I can add too, so when we looked at the data a year ago, we were focusing in and kind of seeing, okay, why was Clough where it was at level 3, and like you hone in and we're looking really closely at the test, and we noticed like writing. That was one area, like, okay, this is an area where we can focus on. So the same kind of like, for me, I want to look at with a critical eye at the trends in the 5th grade, math scores the last couple of years, and see, okay, what are there certain areas? So then we can bring in, like last year we brought in writing, professional areas that we can strengthen instruction, look at curriculum. It's kind of like, you look at the subgroup, you kind of look at all the different elements and continue to do the data digs, but it kind of helps you sharpen your focus sometimes too, so we'll continue to do that.
I have a question not related to this, sort of is. Lauren said Common Core, and what's the status so far? We're obviously not doing it next year, but it's there, October deadline, so I kind of watched, so that I was really focused on like an MCAS, and once we voted, I was done with it, so.
It came out to be approximately a 50-50 split. It's probably something like 52-48 as far as districts and schools in the state and MCAS. Then the State Board of Education, a year from now, in October of 2015, is supposed to make a final vote for spring of 16 implementation, and supposedly everybody will either go to Park or everybody will revert back to
I recall the October deadline, but it's in the wrong year, so.
Yeah, so our kids are going to, our kids will be taking the MCAS again in March and May. All right, thank you.
Correspondence to share. Are there any other matters not anticipated by the committee within 48 hours of the posted meeting? Right, hearing none.
I just have a question. To fill Grace's seat, I know there's a procedure in place, so was that started, or?
Based on precedent, I would assume the Board of Selectmen would advertise it as an open position. And then once they have people interested, they would ask to have a joint meeting with you and Phil to make the determination and make the
Are they in the process of starting the
Yeah,
process?
yeah, they're meeting tomorrow night, I would
I believe
imagine.
it's on.
Any other questions? Does it need to be clarified at this point? Future agenda items for November 3rd include the results of the one-to-one initiative parent survey and the second read on policies ETF and IJNBD. All right, any final matters that merit discussion at this point? Hearing none, I'll call for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Hearing no opposition, meeting is adjourned at 8:02.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.